zoo, you're not going to get an experience like this where it's more one-on-one, and all of our animal encounters that we have are, handling encounters. But the reason behind having sloth like this, where people can actually come and interact with them in an appropriate situation where they've been ethically bred for it, is because so many people are obsessed with sloths and want to spend time with sloths. And if there's not a place like this in the States, their next best option is to go down to Honduras or Guatemala or, Costa Rica, somewhere like that, and have a sloth encounter down there. And those are wild sloths. Those have not been born in an appropriate situation like this where they've been around people. And so to handle a sloth like that is going to be very stressful on the animal. With how sensitive that bacteria is and everything, and how I was talking about stress, how it can do it, if you stress out that sloth to the max and it gets rid of all that bacteria, it's really not the best situation for that animal. There we go.
On the bottom. There you go.
See, now you're doing practicing for your when you come back.
Yeah.
And that's why you're not holding a sloth.
Discretion is in the head.
I'm just kidding. That was funny.
It's a stuffed animal. I know this is a stuffed animal.
Do you have to give them baths?
We don't. So the sloths are probably the cleanest animal that we have on the entire farm, and that's because they don't have any natural scent glands, musk glands, sweat glands, or odor to them, and they don't stay on the ground like all of the other animals that we have do. They stay from the tops of the branches that we have in their enclosures, and so they smell just like their environment does. And in the wild, there's a big misconception that wild sloths are really gross and smell bad because they look gross because they've got all that moss and algae on them, when in reality they just smell like the rest of the rainforest. Those moths, and they look like they'd be really stinky, but they really don't.
It's been a big birthday party. We're going to be at
There's a birthday party that's like 43 people. Yeah. Yeah. It's really big, but I don't think we've had one that big before.
As gently as possible.
Yeah.
Everything is available to come to the stop about 10:45. I can give him some instructions to help direct parking.
You're such a cool cat.
I know our time goes by
Does
so
he ever
quickly.
think this is a real sloth when you put it with him?
No, probably not, because a real sloth would be moving around, but that stuffed animal is actually the stuffed animal that, yeah. Now, that's how he was conditioned, that's how he will climb up onto me. But Zoe, our other sloth, that is another holding sloth, she was conditioned to know that the cue word night-night meant to climb onto that, and then the whole stuffed animal would be handed over. But now that she's bigger than the stuffed animal is, it's kind of, But he doesn't know what that cue word means, so I can say that and he doesn't start reaching for me or anything. All right.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you guys got to come. I'm sorry Flash didn't come down, but at least you got just a little bit of an upgrade. We actually got to all of one.
That's so awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. We'll come out here and sanitize our hands one more time. Did you guys have any other encounters today?
No.
No, just this
You want to do a last pet?
Yep.
Remember, throw it
Down
down.
real slow down his back.
Oh.
Buddies now. All right. You guys want to just sanitize over here one more time. And then if you're somebody that likes to do Google reviews, it really helps us out because a lot of people will check that before coming to a place like this. And that QR code will link you there to do one. Sometimes the service is volume here, but if you want to do one later, you definitely could. It really helps us out. And if you did enjoy it, my name's Michaela. If you didn't, it's Kevin.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You guys have safe travel and everything heading back too.
Oh, yeah.
Watch your step right here. There's a little bit of a gap as you're coming in. You guys are prepared to sanitize your hands right there for me first. Where are you guys coming from? Where at?
it going? How you doing? Good.
All right. So you guys booked for the VIP, which typically, but Flash is at the very top of his toy booth.
Oh, yeah?
And he is in his hammock. And he started to come this morning, and he got to about right here, and we walked away, turned away for a second. He was like, well, they're not paying attention to me, and I'm going back up for a nap. So he went back up. So we're gonna start out with Ash, and then maybe see if he comes down. If he doesn't come down within 30 minutes, then we'll just switch over and we'll just use Zoe for the next 30 minutes. So you guys can come out here and have a seat.
Thank you.
Whoever sits in the blue chair will hold first.
Okay, that's you, babe. Go ahead. You mind? It's okay for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And so Dash just turned a year old, and sloths in general have really poor eyesight, so we have to keep that at the forefront of our minds when we're handling them. All of our movements, we want to be really slow and gentle, because while they can't really see what's going on, they can pick up motion a lot better than we can. So they're going to see something moving, and they're not going to be able to tell what it is if it's up by their face. And so we try to just stick down to the middle of their back like this. He'll have one hand underneath his booty to support him, or sometimes he likes to kind of sit down low in your lap, and that's fine too, as long as he's feeling kind of supported up against you like that. And you can pet him real slow. They don't really like the scritches like a dog or a cat does, and they don't like their hair to be moved up the opposite way. So we'll just go down the middle of the back, and I think he's kind of exploring around. I'm not sure if he's still hungry. We'll offer him a little bit of food and see if he wants anything. But he'll wrap his legs around your waist just like this. And you'll put one hand underneath his booty. Oh. There you go. Ready? All right. There we go. A little food bowl here, see if he's hungry.
This is like a lifetime achievement for
Yeah.
my wife.
Here. All right. Keep it here just in case. Where did you guys hear about us?
We just did research.
Yeah.
On the internet, yeah.
Just looking up for sloth encounters.
Yeah, there's several
Yeah.
here, there's several in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just trying to really whittle down to, okay, which place we want to go to.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge roller coaster fan, so I was like, this is right next to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Let's go to this one.
Yeah. Is that where you guys are staying, or up in Pigeon Forge?
We just came back from yesterday, so
Okay.
we were just staying here
Yeah.
in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Did you?
Aw.
Oh, yeah. This
I don't
is.
think I have enough having
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have sloths all over our
Really?
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, maggots, stuffed animals,
Yeah.
are cute, what?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. It's been tears this whole time.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any setting.
Yeah.
Do the sloths feel the energy of the person?
They do, yeah,
Okay.
and so that's why we always say at the beginning that we want to be really slow and gentle with our movements, because some people will be so excited to see and touch a sloth for the first time that they're really energetic and they're tempted to pet kind of quickly, because it's just how they're feeling on the inside. And I have to remind people just to be really nice and slow and try to be calm with all our movements, because they really feed off of that. And you can tell, especially with the younger ones, his age limit, we just bumped up to 10 years old. It used to be 8.
Because of
Yes,
You're welcome
yeah.
here, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not only that, but they're continuously growing too. And so he used to be, when his age limit was 8, he was around 5 pounds, and now he's like 6.5 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
He is adorable. Is he?
Mhm. Yeah.
He's adorable.
His name is Dash.
Take him with you.
So we've got Flash, Dash, and Zoe.
Just like the
Yeah.
movie, yeah.
Then our next baby sloth that we get should be here within another week or two, and she'll be coming. She'll be named Chloe. So then we'll have Flash, Dash, Zoe, and Chloe. Yes. And so this type of behavior for a sloth, where he's just completely comfortable and content holding on to you like this, and will actually seek out human interaction. He could be completely sleeping, but then as soon as somebody comes in and starts talking and he hears somebody, he'll start waking up and reaching out, trying to see if he can grab onto somebody, because he does genuinely enjoy this interaction. But that doesn't just come naturally for sloths. Sloths typically are very solitary animals that are not going to seek out human interaction, and you're not even going to see 2 sloths in the same tree cuddle up right next to each other. And so a lot of work and conditioning and effort had to go into Dash from a very young age to get him comfortable with being around people like that. Because Flash, he's comfortable with being around people,
Sure.
and he'll come out here and hang on this branch to get his breakfast if he's hungry in the morning,
Sure.
but he has never offered to climb onto us, and he has never been held. And so if
Wow.
we ever are able to hold Flash, he will have to be the one to climb onto
Okay,
us.
got it.
And there've been opportunities for him to do that,
Sure.
where he's been kind of down low in his enclosure, kind of like looking awkward, like he's just kind of like, how did I put myself into this position? And we'll go and like stand right next to him and just be like, yeah, I'm here just in case you need
Yeah.
any assistance.
Is he sleeping? No, he's
Oh.
awake. Yeah.
And you can
That's
tell
hilarious.
every time he kind of contemplates it for just a little bit longer, but then ultimately it's just like, nah, I'll figure it out on my own. And just go back up.
That's great.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of interaction at
Oh,
an
yeah.
early age. in
And
order
they're
to-
very routine animals. You know, you think of a dog or a cat
Sure,
as being
for sure,
routine.
for sure.
They get to understand our schedule, so when our alarm clock goes off, if you feed them right after you get out of the bathroom or something,
Yeah.
as soon as you open up that bathroom door, they're running into the kitchen or
They
wherever
already
their
know.
food bowls are.
Oh,
But sloths are even more so. So
Yeah.
in the mornings around 9:30 when I get here,
Around
it's very typical for Flash to already be on his way down
That's
to his
crazy.
enclosure to get down here. So when I come in at 9:30, I just open up his door, and if he's not already down, I start chopping up veggies. And pretty soon, he'll hook right here onto the door frame himself,
that's
and then
so
come
cool.
out there because he knows it's time for breakfast.
Yeah.
This morning, he just wasn't that hungry because he came down and he got to about right here, and we showed him a little bit of food, and then we turned around for a second to do something else and looked back, and he was going back up. And so
Oh my
sometimes that
goodness.
happens. I've been here for about 4 months, and that's probably only happened about 6 or 7 times.
Oh, okay.
It's very rare,
Yeah.
because he, for the most part, is very routine, likes to do the same
Yeah.
thing. But sometimes, for whatever reason, we do have the camel condo is right up above here,
Mhm.
and you can see Flash from one side of the plexiglass. And so it depends on, I think that there's some kids up there right now. Sometime through the night, maybe he had a little bit of an event where a kid was bothering him for a while,
Oh, no.
or something like that.
Yeah.
You never know, because there's sometimes, it's typically when there's somebody staying up there,
Yeah.
that he'll have a little bit of an awkward day where he'll just go back up. And then it kind of throws off the rest of his schedule, because the rest
Oh,
of the
no.
day, he'll be kind of like, most of the time his day, if it goes typically, he'll come down, he'll spend about an hour out here on this branch, and then go back up. And sometimes we won't see him. Most of the time we won't see
Oh
him
my
for the rest of the
gosh.
day. But if he doesn't come down first thing in the morning for my afternoon encounters, I'm probably gonna see him because this door will be closed by then. But out of the corner of the door where the window's at, you'll see his little face come down out of the corner, and he's like, "Is it time to come out now?" And I'll let him out. He just gets to come and do whatever he wants to do. But his whole day is just kind of thrown off then if he doesn't get to stick to a schedule.
Yeah.
And Dash and Zoe are both the same way. So they both know that what time their encounters are supposed to
Oh,
be.
yeah.
And in the afternoon, especially with Dash, around 4 o'clock is his afternoon encounter. And right about that time, we typically have a farm tour going through, so there'll be a lot of people talking out there. And he knows when he starts to hear people talking out there, and there's a lot of, active things going on, he'll start to uncover himself, reach out, try and grab onto somebody, because he knows that it's supposed to be time for him to have his encounter.
Oh,
So
my
even if he
goodness.
doesn't have anybody booked for his afternoon encounters, we still try to hold him for that amount of time
Yeah,
just to
to
keep
keep
him on
routine,
that schedule, yeah.
That's awesome.
And so that's how he was conditioned as well.
Yeah.
So the mothers were kind of almost clicker trained, like you would a dog.
Mhm.
The breeder would go in, make that clicker noise, give the mother a treat, and then borrow that baby for just like 10 or 15 seconds the
Yeah.
first several times, and then have that baby go right back. So it's always a positive interaction that the baby's having with
Yes,
people.
yes.
And at the same time, in the morning and in the evening, the breeder would go in and
Get
do
used to
that.
it, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just something that would be normal for them.
He had his eyes closed at one point.
Mhm.
Yeah. Does he have any
So, I've been waiting for this to move forever.
Yeah. Well, you get a little bit of an upgrade. If Flash doesn't decide to come down, then you'll get to hold him for 30 minutes, and then you get to hold Zoe for 30 minutes. Yeah. And their personalities are completely different, so you'll get to see, even though they were raised in the same way, they came from the same breeder that conditioned them in the same way to enjoy that human interaction, their personalities are completely different. And I'm not sure if that has to do with their bloodlines, because genetically they're very different. We can breed Flash and Zoe in the future if we want to, because he tracks his sloths all the way back 35 years ago
Oh
when
my
he first
God.
got his
What's
sloths.
the life?
And he knows, so in captivity, the oldest sloth that we know of is lived to be 54 years old. In the wild, we expect it to be about what half it is in captivity. Typically, it's around 30 years that they'll live in captivity. Yeah. Yeah, the diet's very different, but in the wild, they've got a lot of other things that can potentially try to eat a sloth. And sloths don't have a whole lot of, defense mechanisms, so, yeah.
I have a collection, a lot of sloths everywhere. This is a collection of blankets and socks and bracelets and
Life right now for her.
And I'm like, where is all sloth? I wanted to go to Honduras because they said that in Honduras you could have a sloth. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to do a cruise.
I don't necessarily,
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys decided to have one here, because the reason why we have sloth encounters where people can actually come and hold and interact with them is because if there wasn't an opportunity like this, a lot of people would go down somewhere that were native to it, because a lot of people are really interested in sloths and want to be around them for a little bit. But those sloths down there are wild sloths, and wild sloths live completely different lives than they do in captivity. And they have an entire ecosystem that lives on their back in the wild that they rely on to actually be able to digest their food. And so if somebody comes through and picks them up out of a tree and holds them and pets them and interacts with them and messes up that whole ecosystem, that sloth could have a deep expectancy to roughly 2.5 weeks.
That's good that we know.
Yeah. And a lot of people aren't aware of that, because obviously if they were, they wouldn't do anything like that. But it happens to a lot of people, and even the owners, fell victim to something like that. And it wasn't until about a year later that they actually realized the things that actually go on to those sloths. A lot of times what will happen is that the natives in the area know when the cruise ships are going to be coming to be boarded, and so they'll go out several days beforehand, and they're looking for a really young baby sloth, even if it's off the back of the mother, to bring and kind of set into a roadside petting zoo. And so the day before, they'll dunk that sloth in a bucket of cleaner and scrub off all of that moss and algae, because that doesn't look the best in pictures and they're not going to make as much money. But all of that moss and algae is not only their form of camouflage, but also will feed the moths that live throughout their fur on their backs. And those moths are important to the sloths, because they'll produce the bacteria that the sloths use to digest their food and their waste. And so it's an entire symbiotic relationship that's really sensitive. And if it's all cleaned off, and they don't have a way to be able to digest their food there. So even sometimes those sloths will be put back out into the rainforest, but at that point they have no camouflage, they have no form to be protected, and they can't digest their food. And so it's just a slow,
shorter lifespan.
But they already have very soon digestion.
They do. Yep, about once a week, about every 7 to 10 days. And so it takes about 30 days for everything to digest through their system from start to finish. And because it's so slow, that's why they only get the urge to go once a week, which it works out well for them, because they only go once a week like that. But when they do, they go all the way down to the very base of the tree to go to the bathroom. They don't ever go up in the tops of the trees. It would make a lot more sense if they did, because that's when they're most camouflaged, and when they're on the floor, that's when they're most exposed to other animals. But they have to do that, because when they do, they go all the way down, they shake their little booties as they're going to the bathroom, and that signals of those moths that are living on their backs to crawl down and lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloths. And then they'll crawl back up before they lose their ride, because those moths can't fly like other moths can. If they could go to bathrooms up there, the moths could fly down, lay their eggs, then fly back up once they've developed, but it doesn't work like that. And so that's why they have to go down every time to go to the bathroom. And it works out for the moths too, because those moths will feed off of the moss and algae that's on the back of the sloth and get, free transportation to and from their breeding ground once a week. So,
I have a lot of stuff animals, and sometimes when I stress, I just there's no stuff animal that you could just hang on my neck. I just hang on my neck, I'm walking around with a sloth on my neck. And then I have one of those weighted ones.
That's what we were just talking about him for the last encounter. Like, he feels like one of those little rice things that you can stick in the microwave and then lay on you.
Yes, definitely. Oh. And how old is he?
He just turned a year old. He turned a year old August 5th.
roller coasters.
Mhm.
And that's why we went to Dollywood, because he wants to get like a lot of roller coaster credits.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's go or not. And then he's like, oh, there's a sloth encounter. I'm like, oh, there's a sloth encounter.
We did more research because we wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, sure, because there's a lot of places too that will advertise their sloth encounters as drop-in sloth encounters or no appointment necessary sloth encounters. And they may have more than the 3 sloths that we have, but you kind of have to ask yourself, how many times are those sloths being booked back to back to back to back with no breaks in between? And so, yeah. Yeah, there's only specific spots of the day that can be booked because those are the only spots where we do interactions with them. We're very guarded at the time that others get to spend with our sloths and that we get to spend with our sloths. And so, I only go in there and interact with them in between encounters if they're wanting the interaction. If they're, because Zoe, a lot of times she'll come to the door and you'll hear a little on the door because she's trying to get somebody's attention. And that's usually if she's like hungry or something in between. And so then I'll get her out and hold her for a little bit while I feed her. But then for the most part, she sticks to that schedule where she has certain times throughout the day where she has her interactions. And so if Dash or Zoe were to be fully booked for the entire day, they would only have an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, and that's it. So maybe in the middle if they got hungry or something and they were looking for somebody to give them some food, and they get that too. But on average, that's about how much they get.
That's really good. I mean, maybe that should be the standard moving
It should be,
forward,
yeah.
right?
And again, not a whole lot of people put too much thought behind it. They're just like, oh my gosh, there's a sloth encounter. I want to do a sloth encounter. And yeah,
They're just thinking of
unaware
of,
He's so adorable. I can't believe I'm holding a sloth. I can't believe it.
Alright guys, this next guy
Great.
is green iguana. He is entirely friendly. I use sloths when I pick him up.
Oh, if you could just see
Yeah,
him
his
from
little
this
tongue.
angle, his little tongue.
And he'll go through spells where he'll either leave his little tongue sticking out halfway like that, or he'll leave his mouth hanging like halfway open and he just looks astonished the whole time. He's just surprised.
Feels all rough and bumpy. When you pet him here, it feels like sandpaper.
So that's the farm tour going on right there. And John will say the same things every single time. And so he usually they'll look at Willie first. And so when he starts hearing them saying the same thing, he's like, oh, it's time. Somebody's about to come in here.
They're really attentive.
Yeah, Dash especially, he wants to be in the know at all times. If I move from here to over there, he's gonna be breaking his neck to look back to see where I'm going. Especially if I open up the fridge, or if I open up the door or something, he's like, what's going on? Is there food coming? What, is there somebody new in here? He wants to know. But Zoe, she could care less. As soon as she's in somebody's lap, if she's got her belly full, the first place that Zoe wants to go to is up around your shoulders. She'll put both of her claws back behind your shoulders and put her head right beside your neck.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes when he opens up his mouth just a little bit, you can see some of those teeth back down in there, because they don't have any teeth in the very front of their mouths, but the first teeth that you come to are 4 really sharp canines on the sides of their mouths, and then back behind those, all of their molars are not flat like ours are, they're all pointed too. Yeah, and so if you were to look at the skull of a sloth without knowing what animal it was, you would definitely think they were top of the food chain, or definitely a meat eater of some sort. But in reality, they're just using those teeth to grind up the leaves that they're eating. It's a lot easier to grind up leaves than it is to chomp them up like we would. So it just works out well for them and what their diet is. But any other type of animal that has teeth like that, you'd think would be meat eater. Yeah. And so then that a lot of times will then kind of go into, somebody would ask me, well, what was their ancestors? What did they evolve from? And I always tell people that sloths evolved from other sloths. In the beginning, the Lord created sloths. Of course, they looked very different than what they do now. There's 2 different lines. There are the giant ground sloth that we have fossil records of. And those would never go up in the trees, but they were massive animals. And if you,
like size of a cow? Or?
Yeah, about. And so if you like avocados, you can thank the giant ground sloths for those, because those are the only mammal that would actually swallow the entire avocado seed and then pass them through their system to transmit them around. Yeah. So they were very, very large. And then there's the tree sloths, and there were a few different varieties of giant tree sloths as well, but they're all sloths. Genetically, they're all sloths. And all of their teeth looked very similar to this.
Interesting, yeah, you would think that pedigree would let them follow the teeth that more meat eaters, but it's omnivore.
Yeah. Now, the two-toed sloths, I will say, they're kind of like opportunistic omnivores, and so if a two-toed sloth were to come across a really small bird's nest with some really young baby birds in it, they would eat something like that to be able to meet their protein requirements, yeah. The three-toed sloths would not, but two-toed definitely would.
Good size, shape, and color to hide absolutely nowhere.
As well as like lizards or something like that, if it was to be on a branch down close by, they would eat those. But the,
How quick are they to get, you know, other animals food up? I would figure they just have to be like right in front of them.
yeah, it would have to be something like, you know, a little bird's nest that wasn't gonna be moving or anything, if they would eat something like that. Or a lizard, if there was to be a little lizard on a branch right beside their head. They can turn their heads quickly, you know, quicker than people. I think that the movie Utopia kind of poorly portrays sloths because they're not actually that slow. They definitely can be. Flash loves to test my patience in the morning, especially when he's coming down. Sometimes if he's not already hooked onto the door frame by the time I open up that door, he's slowly making his way down. And that's fine. He gets to take all the time that he wants, but sometimes it takes like the whole 30 minutes from 9:30 to 10 to make him come all the way down.
Oh my God.
And sometimes he needs just a little bit of persuading. He absolutely loves bananas. And so if he's coming down really slow, sometimes I'll go in there with a banana and start to blow it up towards him because they have an excellent sense of smell because their eyesight is so poor. So he smells that pretty quickly and that'll kind of get him moving a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I made a point not to put on it.
Yeah, that's good because I can always tell if I open up that door and somebody walks by me and I can smell their perfume or their cologne, I can already tell you it's not going to be a very snuggly encounter. He's not going to have his head resting on you like that. He's going to be looking back the whole time. That's like, when is it going to end?
Oh, I love Is there a particular why it seems to be your lifespan back?
It's just natural for them. So some scientists speculate that when they're looking upside down, that's actually their way of seeing right side up because they spend their whole lives upside down like that. So when his head is resting on your chest, most of the time his eyes are closed because if he's like that or if he's on the ground, that's like everything's flipped for him, and it can be kind of confusing. So that's why a lot of times he'll have his head backwards looking. But Zoe's a little bit different. She usually will stay up, on your chest or up close like that. Now I say that, and sometimes she'll have completely different personalities. I swear she's kind of bipolar. There'll be some times where she's completely snuggled in, and she'll be just completely snuggled in up there around your shoulders. And then out of nowhere, nothing that I can see has happened, but they pick up on things that we don't necessarily. And then she'll just completely let go, lean back. She loves to play with this, and she loves to try to do little chin-ups right here, or grab doorknobs and twist on doorknobs. And then usually that kind of makes people nervous, and they're like, is she uncomfortable? Is she not wanting to be held now? And I always try to reassure them, no, she is. She just likes to be exploratory. And then sometimes people are like, well, it's already towards the end of the encounter. I think she's uncomfortable. I'm like, okay. And I go over to get her, and as soon as she sees me coming, she knows that she's going to be going back into her enclosure, and she doesn't want to go back. She wants to stay with people, and she'll try to go back up around their shoulders before I go to get her. And they're like, oh, I did not thought she was uncomfortable. I was like, I tried to tell you.
I forgot his name.
He's two, yeah. It makes more sense to say two-fingered though, because in the back he does have three, but whoever deemed to call them two-toed and three-toed steps, I guess just thought all four limbs were feet. But I do consider the front to be arms for whatever reason. Oops, sorry. But yeah, you've got two on the front and three on the back. And then the three-toeds will have three on the front and three on the back. Yeah. And the three-toed sloths are typically what people will picture in their head when they see a sloth. Those are the ones that have that darker band there across their eyes. Their claws most of the time are light. They're kind of lighter in general, whereas the two-toeds will have that darker head and the darker legs and kind of have a lighter back. He's still kind of dark because he's young, but kind of that salt and pepper look that he's got going on down the middle of his back will get a lot lighter, yeah. And you'll see with Zoe too, when I get her out, she's already fully turned into her adult coat, and she's a lot lighter on her back than she is anywhere else.
I'm curious about his nose.
Yeah.
You know how dogs, when they smell or when